They never expected this. Not you. Not anyone. They thought they understood you. Knew your limits. Knew how you would react. But here you are, standing on the edge of something they never imagined, something they never prepared for. It started so quietly. Almost nothing at all. A word misplaced. A glance ignored. A decision postponed. You didn't react at first, and that was their mistake. That was what made them think they were safe. History is full of these moments. Small miscalculations, tiny misjudgments. The ones who feel untouchable, the ones who believe in the stability of their world, always the first to fall when the unexpected finally arrives. You've seen it before. A city that thought it was invincible, a person who trusted too easily, a system that promised security. And yet when the pressure comes, it bends, it snaps, and those who were certain of control are left staring at the ruin, wondering how they missed the warning. But this isn't history. This is now. And this time, it's personal, because they didn't know you'd respond like this. And they are about to find out. Something is coming. Something they cannot see. Something they cannot stop. And it is closer than they think. You might think you know what's coming next. You might brace yourself. You might even try to prepare, but nothing could have prepared them for you. And when it begins, they will regret underestimating you. But the question is, will you? Because by the time you decide, it will be too late for them. There was a time when everything felt safe, stable, predictable, a rhythm to life that seemed unshakable. Every morning, the same sounds. Every evening, the same light fading over familiar streets. Every conversation rehearsed and comfortable. You remember that feeling, that quiet confidence in the world. It wasn't steady arrogance. Not yet. It was certainty. The illusion that the walls around you, the routines you trusted, the people you relied on would never fail. Psychologists call it the comfort of denial. History calls it a mistake. Empires crumbled. Nations fell. Families broke apart. All because those inside believed in safety too much. Think of a city that never locked its gates. Think of a person who never questioned loyalty. Think of a system that promised stability without ever testing it. Everything seemed fine until it wasn't set. And for a long time you didn't see it either. The subtle signs. The unusual hesitations. The whispers that passed like shadows down corridors. You told yourself, it was nothing, overthinking, paranoia, and that perhaps was the most human choice of all. Because there is comfort in believing in stability. It allows you to live without fear. It allows you to trust. It allows you to think the world will continue on the same path it always has. But illusions have a way of breaking. Small cracks form in the foundation long before the collapse. A misplaced word, a casual lie, a promise ignored. At first they are invisible, almost imperceptible, almost irrelevant. You remember that first hint, that moment that didn't make sense. Perhaps it was a friend acting distant, a colleague making a decision you couldn't explain, a system that stumbled when it should have stood firm. It was brief, easy to dismiss, and yet it lingered, quietly, like smoke before fire. And that is when the illusion begins to falter. Not with noise, not with chaos, but with the quiet suspicion that the world is not as safe as you believed. It's the first seed of doubt, the first shadow on a perfect day, the first warning sign that someone, perhaps even you, will respond in a way they never imagined. But at this stage, no one sees the danger. Not you, not them. And that is what makes it inevitable, because safety, once taken for granted, is always temporary, and illusions always die hard. and soon the cracks will grow. They will grow in ways that cannot be ignored. And when they do, everything you thought you knew will begin to unravel. It started small, almost invisible. A comment here, a glance there, a hesitation in a handshake. Nothing anyone could point to, nothing that demanded attention, and yet it was there. The first cracks rarely scream, they whisper. They appear in places you trust, most at home, at work, in the streets you walk every day without thinking, and like a hairline fracture in glass. You don't notice at first, you run your finger along it, and it seems harmless. People dismissed it, rationalized it. She's just tired. They didn't mean it. It sets nothing. Comfortable explanations, safe excuses. But you felt it differently. You sensed the hesitation, the pause before words fell, the way someone's eyes flickered, betraying something beneath the surface. A tension that should not have existed yet was impossible to ignore. History is full of these moments. The first tremor before the earthquake, the first ripple before the flood. Nations ignore small rebellions until they are armies. Families ignore quiet lies until they are betrayals. And you ignored nothing. The first cracks are dangerous because they make you question your own perception. You wonder, am I overreacting? Am I imagining things? And in that doubt, the world continues as if nothing is wrong, and that is their advantage. Then the signs grow bolder. A friend speaks with hidden anger. A colleague manipulates facts, just enough to sow confusion. A rule bends, just enough to let chaos creep in. Nothing catastrophic, nothing obvious, yet everything begins to feel unsteady. You notice patterns, repetition, subtle disrespect, small violations of trust, but the world around you refuses to acknowledge them. They laugh it off. They explain it away. They want stability. They need comfort. And that is the turning point, where unease begins to gnaw at you, quietly, relentlessly, where awareness separates you from the oblivious, where you realize the illusion of safety is gone. But the cracks are only the beginning. Soon hesitation will no longer protect them. Soon ignorance will no longer be an excuse. And soon your response will arrive. Because they didn't you set notice. And they certainly didn't know how you'd act when the cracks widened. And then inevitably it escalates. The cracks are no longer quiet. They shout in moments of silence. They scream in the small betrayals, the overlooked rules, the subtle manipulations that can no longer be ignored. The world around you begins to shift, almost imperceptibly, yet unmistakably. People still deny it. Authorities, friends, leaders, they all cling to comfort, to routine, to the idea that everything is fine. We're still overreacting, they say. It's just temporary, they insist. It's all blow over, they promise. But you know better. You feel the tension in the air, the weight in conversations, the hesitation behind smiles, the way people look at you as if they are afraid and yet unwilling to admit why. This is the moment where human nature becomes both fragile and cruel, where empathy clashes with survival, where denial fights reality, and for many denial wins. You see it in the eyes of those who trusted too easily, those who believed that the rules, the systems, the people around them would protect them. They are wrong, and they will soon learn it. Escalation isn't that always loud. Sometimes it sets quiet, subtle, personal, a betrayal at the dinner table, a lie in a contract, a decision made behind your back, justified with half-truths and empty rationalizations, each one a thread, pulling the fabric of security apart. And still, society, authority, the people who once seemed in control, They all rationalize it. They justify what cannot be justified. They invent stories to cover the truth, because to see reality is terrifying, and no one wants to admit fear. Meanwhile, you watch, you observe, you respond. Quietly, deliberately. Not with panic, not with chaos, but with clarity. You understand what they cannot, that denial is not protection, that ignorance is not safety, that the world once cracked will continue to fracture unless someone acts, and act you will, even if they never expected it, because escalation demands a response, because denial can only last so long, and because the moment when everything becomes undeniable is approaching faster than they realize. And when it comes, it will be too late for them to turn back. They never saw it coming. They never imagined that someone would respond like you. There is a moment, a single instant where everything could have been different, where the path could have been changed, where the destruction, the betrayal, the consequences could have been avoided. But that moment is fragile, and it is fleeting. It arrives quietly, often unnoticed, hidden among the noise of daily life, hidden behind the comfort of routine, and most people, they miss it. They justify, they delay, they tell themselves, it's just not the right time, it will resolve itself, it's not serious enough to act on. And while they wait, while they rationalize, the opportunity slips through their fingers, the chance to prevent what is coming, the chance to stop the inevitable. You, however, you notice. You see the warning signs. You feel the weight of every choice, every hesitation, every lie that has been ignored. And in that recognition, you understand. You understand that some lines once crossed cannot be uncrossed. This is the point of no return. The line has been crossed. The subtle fractures have widened. The whispers have become roars. And now action is no longer a choice. It is a necessity. Regret sits heavy on those who ignored the warnings. Fear tightens around those who still cling to denial. And you are ready. Ready to act. Ready to respond in ways they never imagined. Because once this moment passes, there is no turning back, no undoing the damage, no fixing what has been ignored, no forgiveness for the ones who chose comfort over awareness. And as the consequences start to ripple outward, they finally see it, they finally understand, but it is too late. They didn't say no. You would respond like this. And by the time they do, the world they relied on will already be gone. And then it begins, not with a bang, not with a dramatic announcement, but quietly, slowly, like ice cracking beneath your feet. The world around them unravels. Small failures cascade into larger ones. The systems they trusted, people, institutions, routines begin to fail, one after another, and there is no one to stop it. Confusion spreads like smoke. Fear spreads like fire. And in the midst of it all, silence. A silence that presses in, heavy and suffocating, where certainty once lived. They scramble, they argue, they deny, they beg for clarity, for guidance, for a return to the illusion of safety. But the illusion is gone, and their desperation only highlights their powerlessness. You watch it unfold. You feel it in the air, the tension in voices, the hesitation in movements, the small, frantic attempts to hold on to what is already lost. It is slow, painfully slow. And in that slowness, the horror seeps in, the realization that nothing can be fixed, not by words, not by wishes, not by denial. People begin to turn on one another. Blame spreads, trust shatters, and every choice, every ignored warning, every tiny act of denial comes home to roost. And yet, amidst the collapse, there is clarity, a cold, unflinching clarity. You see the truth of what they ignored. You feel the weight of every consequence they never thought would reach them. And in that moment, the world is both empty and full, empty of security, full of the echoes of what could have been prevented. A slow atmospheric collapse that leaves nothing untouched. And while they flail, while they panic, you remain quiet, observant, because they didn't know that this would be your response. And now there is no going back, no comfort, no escape, only the consequences of what they failed to see and what you chose to do. The chaos has passed, not with fireworks, not with closure, not with relief, only with silence. A silence heavy enough to press against your chest, a silence that speaks louder than any scream ever could. The world they once knew is gone. The structures they trusted, the people they relied on, the systems they took for granted, everything lies fractured, scattered, irreparable, and the absence of it all feels infinite. You walk through it, quietly, carefully. Every step echoes in empty spaces, in abandoned streets, in broken routines, and everywhere you look, reminders linger, small tokens of what was ignored, what was denied, what was left unchecked. And still, there is reflection, a long, weighty reckoning with the human mind, with choices made and avoided, with trust placed and betrayed. You think about how denial gave birth to disaster. You think about how overconfidence blinded them. You think about how subtle cracks became irreparable chasms. And in that reflection, there is clarity, a deep, unshakable understanding of human nature, of how fragile trust is, of how fleeting security can be, of how people who thought they were invincible can fall, slowly, inexorably, when they fail to notice the signs. You also realize it is not just about them, it is about you, about how awareness, perception, and deliberate action separate the passive from the decisive, about the choices you made, the responses you took, the moments you acted while they hesitated, and the truth settles in, cold and unrelenting. They never saw it coming. They never imagined the consequences of their denial. They never considered that anyone might respond like you. And even now, in the emptiness left behind, the echoes of what was lost linger, long silences, heavy hearts, broken connections, a reminder that after every collapse, after every consequence, life continues. But it is never the same, and in that stillness, you finally understand. You understand the weight of what they ignored, the fragility of what they took for granted, the inevitability of what happens when warning signs are dismissed. And in that understanding, you prepare for the lesson they never learned. You've seen it, the cracks, the escalation, the collapse, the aftermath. And now, you know what they never did. You know what they refused to see. You know the cost of ignoring the signs, of trusting too easily, of believing in safety where none existed. This is not just a story about them. It is a warning for you, for anyone who walks through life thinking everything will remain as it is, for anyone who assumes the world will protect them, that people will act with reason, that chaos will stay distant. History repeats, patterns return, small cracks appear in the foundation, whispers of warning creep through the silence, and yet so many still pretend, deny, rationalize. Do not be them. Do not ignore the subtle signs. Do not wait until it is too late, because someone, somewhere, will respond when you least expect it. Someone will act with clarity where others hesitated. Someone will respond like you never imagined. And when that happens, do not forget what the cracks can become. Do not underestimate the consequences of inaction. Do not let denial blind you to the truth. The world does not wait, it does not forgive, and it does not forget. The lesson is simple. Notice, respond, because if you do not, when the moment comes, they will regret underestimating you, and by then, it will be too late for them.